Folks, Trump just sent Iran 15 demands to end the war, and Iran responded, not now, not ever. And meanwhile, the Pentagon has sent the Navy SEALs, Delta Force, the Rangers, and 3,000 paratroopers to the Gulf. So, in the last 24 hours, the U.S. has tried to make peace, and at the same time sent the most dangerous guys on the planet to the war zone. But how do you make sense of this? What's the deal? What the fuck's with this conflict? None of this makes any sense. I mean, can't we just have normal, regular wars? Let's calm down and analyze everything. We've already been in this war for 25 days now. You know that Trump had previously issued an ultimatum to Iran. Either they would open the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours, or their electrical power plants would be destroyed. Well, a short time later, he then stated that the deadline was being extended by 5 additional days because Iran had called them and they were negotiating. Even though Iran keeps saying they haven't even answered their calls, but oh well. So, amidst this mini diplomatic interlude, the United States has just drafted a 15-point plan, though for now we only know 14. The other one is a surprise or something like that. The document was given by the United States to Pakistan's army chief to deliver to Iran. So, this guy is acting as a messenger and mediator between the two sides. Okay, and since we're here, I'll tell you the 14 points, let's see what you think. First, Iran must dismantle its current nuclear capabilities. Second, they must pledge never to develop nuclear weapons. They also won't enrich uranium on Iranian soil. And all they have, about 400 kilograms, must be handed over to the IAEA. Fifth, their nuclear facilities must be dismantled. The UN nuclear watchdog must have full access, transparency, and oversight within Iran. They must abandon their regional ally paradigm. I don't really know what that is, but they must abandon it. Eighth, they must also stop financing, directing, and arming their regional allies. Ninth, the Strait of Hormuz must remain open and function as a free and open maritime corridor. Iran's missile capabilities must be limited in both range and quantity, which means their range must not extend to distant targets. Furthermore, the use of these missiles will be strictly limited to self-defense. And then point 12 states, if Iran fulfills all these conditions, it will obtain the full lifting of sanctions imposed by the international community, and the United States will assist Iran in advancing its civil nuclear program. And finally, the so-called automatic snapback mechanism will be eliminated, which allowed the automatic reimposition of sanctions if Iran did not comply with what was stipulated. To make these negotiations calmer, a 1-month ceasefire would be put in place so both teams can talk and relax. Mamma mia, what do you think? It's no small thing, huh? What they're asking Iran for. It's basically, give up your entire nuclear program, cut ties with your allies, open the strait, and in return will lift sanctions and give you a free kebab. In fact, these demands are quite similar to what was negotiated before February 28th, when the bombings began in the middle of the negotiation round. Of course, this has quite angered Iran, who view it as a very tasteless joke because what they're asking for now is much more hardcore. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has appeared in public, all happy and pleased, saying that Iran had sent them a truly massive gift, worth an absolutely enormous amount of money, all related to gas, oil, and the Strait of Hormuz, but he didn't provide any further details. Damn it, what a mystery. So, the enemy is sending gifts in the middle of a war. Hell, that's how you like to exterminate the opposition. Meanwhile, while the United States president enthusiastically described the negotiations, the spokesperson for the Iranian Armed Forces Unified Command appeared on state television asking, "Has the level of your internal struggle reached the point of negotiating with yourselves?" Basically, Iran is largely stating that Trump is merely speaking to himself, that there are no genuine negotiations taking place, that the United States is simply fabricating this to pacify the markets, a situation that ultimately allows those with privileged information to make an absolute fortune. No one like us will ever come to an agreement with people like you, neither now nor at any point in the future. However, this is actually all a facade because, in reality, according to several sources, Iran would be willing to listen to realistic proposals to end the war, and closing Hormuz isn't being done to the fullest either, huh? Iran has already stated that non-hostile ships not supporting U.S. actions can pass, and there are already several cases of oil tankers that have crossed without paying and haven't turned into torches, so that's something. But there's a small problem with the issue of future negotiations because Iran has already said it doesn't want to see Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff at all, nor his son-in-law Jared Kushner. He considers those two unreliable because they were already talking to them before the war, and they completely tricked them because then there was a war. The one Iran really likes is Vance, the vice president. Why? Well, because he was the most reluctant to attack Iran, and right now he's the one who inspires the most trust in them. Okay, and do you know the best part of all this? Well, while the United States is talking about dialogue, about the famous 15 points it has given to Iran, that the war is about to end and all that, then boom. At the same time, it just sent a massive number of troops to its Gulf bases. And mind you, because these aren't just some weak soldiers, no, not at all. They are the elite. They've deployed Navy SEALs, Rangers, paratroopers, Delta Force, including the very same unit that captured Maduro in January, and more personnel. What's more, in Saudi Arabia, they've reopened an airbase to accommodate all these troops. So in total, the United States has 50,000 units in the region, which is no small number. And I remind you that this March 27th is when Trump's ultimatum expires. So there are two options here. Either this military movement is a bluff designed to pressure Iran and, at the same time, calm the markets, or things are truly on the verge of escalating, and the United States is merely positioning its new pieces on the board. We will know the answer this weekend or, at the latest, next week. Either way, my friend, this ends soon or the global crisis is getting closer and closer. It is true that after Trump had postponed the ultimatum, the price of Brent crude oil fell by 6% quite rapidly. But of course, with that same speed, it could easily return to dangerous levels again. Bear in mind that BlackRock's CEO has stated that if the price of a barrel were to reach just $150, the entire world would face a global recession. I've been thinking, and I believe the server's bugged, huh? Because every 6 years we have a new crisis. So someone, please install the new drivers for God's sake. Meanwhile, the price of gasoline in the United States has risen about $1 per gallon since the war began. Or for example, in Vietnam, huh? Diesel has more than doubled, huh? And it's crazy because in many countries, airlines have canceled routes due to fuel costs. And in the Philippines, they're directly in a national energy emergency because they only have reserves for about 45 days and are rushing to buy oil from Russia. All this mess just for not letting a few boats pass through a stretch of water, huh? Man, the world is so fragile, and this whole situation we're living through isn't just about the economy. Uncle Trump needs to fix this whole mess as soon as possible because his popularity is at an all-time low at 36, and only 35% of Americans support military intervention in Iran. By the way, more information is now known about the Mossad's movements in Iran. Look, before last year's bombings, the Iranian government had forbidden its members from using cell phones so that Israel couldn't track their location. But those clueless fools didn't tell their bodyguards anything, and they were allowed to have electronic devices. Oh, really? And then boom! The June bombings arrived, and Israel took out several top leaders, so Iran learned its lesson, and they also confiscated phones from security guards. But just a few months later, widespread riots began across the entire country. And that's when the regime, in order to keep the streets under control, started installing a huge number of security cameras. Big mistake. A huge error. Israel's secret services didn't take long to get them hacked. And of course, this way they could monitor their targets, always knowing when people were entering and leaving the buildings. Then, of course, when they realized that a number of them had gathered in one single location, fire! The whole damn building can go to hell, and they also took out the mobile phone towers in the area so the bodyguards couldn't receive any warnings. So, for now that's where we are, huh? Just hours before Trump's deadline expires with elite troops ready for who knows what, with Iran saying there are no negotiations while the bombings continue, and with the United States replying, yes, damn it, we're already talking, don't you remember? This is a total mess. What do you say? Will the United States dare to send soldiers into Iran, or will we have a ceasefire next week? Go on, make your prediction in the comments. Bye.